there's something called sleep paralysis. What happens in sleep paralysis is that you basically get stuck. So your body is asleep, but your eyes are open. Guys, welcome to the 6th episode of the Podstarz, where we have the biggest headphones, we have the biggest microphones, but we have the smallest penises. Today's episode is going to be थोड़ा हटके रहेगा, थोड़ा डिफरेंट रहेगा. एम के बाबा इंट्रोड्यूस करेंगे कैसे डिफरेंट रहेगा.
हम आज मैं इस हफ्ते बहुत सारी डार्क स्टोरीज पढ़ रहा था क्योंकि once in a while you're just in that mood that you're just scouting the internet for the darkest shit you can ever find. तो क्या कर रहा है भाई?
The darkest shit you can ever find. Ever.
I mean,
that seems
not
like
ever, but
seems like a kink to me if you ask me.
Haven't you had one of those nights where you just scout the internet for like deep space exploration shit?
I've had a lot of strange nights on the internet.
No, not regarding playing with yourself.
Playing with yourself, that's a very very polite way to put it.
I censor my things these days.
अबे साले तेरे सामने सबसे बड़ा मुठबाज बैठा है, तू यहाँ पे playing with yourself कह रहा है भाई. देखिए किशोर बताइए उसको.
अनमोल की कल से वीडियो सेंसर्ड ऐसे आ रही है, playing with myself.
World's biggest player with himself.
World's best himself player.
Self player.
Best self player. Selfish player.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Haven't you had one of those nights where you just go like scouting the internet for deep?
I think all of us have had those nights. They're strange.
What's the most fucked up shit you found in the internet?
Found on the internet, or that has happened to me in real life?
Okay, found in the internet first.
Found on the internet. I think I've gone pretty deep into the dark web. And I think I've come across... I've seen all the drug websites. I think I was trying to find a red room. I wanted to see some kids getting beaten up. Red room is like a torture room. So basically you go into a red room and you basically have to pay, and it's like kind of exclusive and shit. And it's like, it's super creepy. So I've heard. I haven't been into one. But to get into a red room, you have to somehow like scout the dark web. And then basically the point of a red room is कि वहाँ पे कोई actively torture हो रहा होता है.
Somebody's getting
tortured, not beaten up. Like they will be plucking his nails out, and I'm pretty sure it's like very intense torture. And I think in some of those rooms you can also the audience can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you can also like you can pay a certain amount of crypto or whatever, and then you can tell the person
what to do to that person.
Super chat, YouTube.
Yeah, torture ki super chat.
But this is fucked up. Like these people are kidnapped or what?
You don't know how they got to the chair, but they're basically there and they're getting tortured. You can fucking go search this up. There's a fuck ton of extensive YouTube material on Red Room.
I did not know.
It's called a Red Room. It sounds sexual, but it's not sexual.
I do not want to watch Red Room.
No. I was trying to I was low-key looking for one, but I was also kind of scared क्योंकि वो जो Red Rooms चला रहे होते हैं वो बहुत intense लोग होते हैं, तो उनको IP addresses सबके पता होते हैं, ये वो कि कहीं कुछ कोई.
अगली बार मॉली बैठा Red Room.
अबे हाँ, मैं हंसा भी सकता हूँ, मेरे को सिर्फ टॉर्चर करने की जरूरत है.
सुपर चैट पे लिंक
टेल जोक दे रहा है, इसको नचाओ.
लुंगी डांस. सर लुंगी डांस करो.
टेल हिम टू टेल अ जोक. बट आई एम नॉट अ स्टैंड अप.
पैसे वापस आ जाएंगे.
ऋषभ यार, माइक को अपने मुंह के पास रखा कर.
The most fucked up real life thing that's happened to you?
The most fucked up real life thing that has happened to me was that I had a partial out of body experience. Now I don't know if that was a full out of body experience or what I had, if it was even an out of body experience, but it sure felt like one. So guys, I'm sure you've seen Doctor Strange. तो वो डॉक्टर स्ट्रेंज जब स्टार्टिंग में वहाँ पे जाता है मॉनेस्ट्री में, और फिर वो इसको ऐसे करते हैं और कामयाबियाँ देते हैं और उसकी वो निकल जाती है.
ड्रैगन बॉल थी
उसका वो निकल जाती है, उसकी आत्मा निकल जाती है. His astral body, that's what they refer to it as, right, in the movie. His astral body comes out. So that shit has happened to me in real life, for real. Because I was a kid, I was a very messed up kid. I'm a messed up adult also. Because I don't think normal adults try to find red rooms. But when I tried to find a red room, when I did try to find a red room, I was a child. I was not an adult. Anyway, so the point being कि उस time पे I bought this book. It was about the different astral planes. So जो just astral, जैसे Doctor Strange में अब भी आई है भाई Doctor Strange. Everybody who's seen it, which I'm sure most people have. like Doctor Strange में वो दिखाते हैं ना that there are different astral, like there are different planes, कि वो बहनचोद कोई सिर्फ पैटर्न वैटर्न वाला होता है, एक तो उनका बस वो अर्थ पे ही घूम रहे होते हैं. So there's like different astral planes. I think there were 7 astral realms, and I think 2 of them are on Earth, and then the other ones are beyond it. So there was this book which was basically decoding the whole astral body stuff and like the astral planes, and it was like a book explaining astral sciences. Guys, I'm going to find the book and I'm going to link it below in case anyone of you want to read it. But basically I was really obsessed with trying to get an outer body experience. So I used to like watch a bunch of these videos, read these weird fucking books on how to do it. And one of the methods was that you're supposed to imagine a rope falling down from the sky while you're resting on the bed, like flat on the bed. And you're supposed to imagine a rope falling down, like a ladder falling down from the sky. And it's falling near like your tummy region. And you're supposed to imagine you laying flat, but slowly climbing that. So you're getting elevated one by one. And then you reach a point where there's this white tunnel phase. And then you get shot into the astral realm. No, the white tunnel phase was in lucid dreaming. That wasn't in... So lucid dreaming bhi main try karta tha, wo separate hai. Lucid dreaming is in your head, but astral projection is different. So in astral projection, then you feel this weird kind of sensation. And then you're outside, you see... So you're apparently... It's like an umbilical cord that attaches you to your body in the astral plane. I'm forgetting what it's called. But apparently if it gets chopped off, if that cord gets chopped off, then you get stuck in the astral plane. And if you go to negative bodies in the astral plane, then they will try to capture you there. And apparently the negative bodies, if they keep you, then you basically, they cut off that cord of yours and then you can't go back into your body.
Oh,
and I completely believe this, right? I completely believe this. I 110% believe this. So I used to try a fuck ton of this shit. And then when I finally, so what happened was, if everybody doesn't know this, there's something called sleep paralysis. What happens in sleep paralysis is that you basically get stuck. So your body is asleep, but your eyes are open. So you're conscious, but you can't move. So you're paralyzed, but you can look around. And what happens in that state is that your brain starts imagining things. So if you look to your left or right, if you look for too long, you'll start hallucinating. And it's usually evil hallucinations. And one of my friends, actually shout out to Saurav. Saurav had one of these. He when we were very young, but it was such him telling me that thing had such a profound impact on me that I still remember this. He basically told me कि जब वो होता है तो तुम लोग इमेजिन करने लग जाते हो कि यहाँ पे चीज़ें वहाँ पे चीज़ें हैं. Then I was like कि अगर अब मैं अपने आँखें खुले रखूँगा, if I keep my eyes open, अगर मेरी आँखें खुली होंगी तो मेरे को बहनचोद चीज़ें दिखने लग जाएंगी. और मेरी फिर उस बात में मेरी गांड फट गई कि बहनचोद मैंने अगर इधर देखा उधर देखा तो मेरे को कुछ दिख जाएगा, तो मैंने अपनी आँखें बंद कर ली. ठीक है, स्लीप पैरालाइज होने के बाद. एंड दिस इज़ व्हेन आई वाज अबाउट 14, I think 14 or 15 or maybe 13, and this is when I was still sleeping in my sister's room on that sliding bed. राइट, तो मेरी बहन ऊपर वाले बेड पे सो रही है, मैं ज़मीन पे नीचे स्लाइडिंग बेड पे सो रहा हूँ. और उस टाइम पे मैं स्लीप पैरालाइज हुआ, तो मैंने कहा बेटी जो मेरे को कुछ दिखने लग जाएगा, तो मैंने आंखें बंद कर ली. अपनी आंखें बंद करने के बाद आई फेल asleep. After I fell asleep, I woke up and I thought I've woken up. So I wake up and I push my sister and I'm like, dude, you won't believe what just happened. This was absolutely insane. And I'm completely conscious and I completely think that I'm in the real world and I'm awake. I push her off the bed and she just floats off the bed and disappears. Then I noticed that there are no dogs around me. There's nothing around me. She was there, like her body was on the bed. I pushed it. It had no weight to it. It floated off the bed and disappeared. And then I was fully conscious in this moment to the point where when I picture it, I can still remember it. And I remember everything very vividly because I was 100% conscious. So I know it's not a dream. It wasn't a dream. So I pushed her off. She floats off the bed. I go to the room, ka door, to go out. And the door is locked. Which it was in real life also, which is very strange. So then I try to open the door. It's locked. Then I look back to where I was sleeping. I see my own self. Right? I see my own self sleeping on the bed. So then I go and I sit back, like I go back and I sleep on the bed, which is basically I sleep on myself. And then I go sleep on myself again. And this is the second time I'm sleeping. First time I slept, I woke up in this, whatever this is. पहले मैं sleep paralyzed हुआ. फिर मैंने कहा कि मेरे को कुछ देखना नहीं है, मैं डर रहा हूँ. तो फिर मैं सो गया. उसके बाद मैं इस realm में उठा. फिर इस realm को escape करने के लिए I was like कि अब मैं वापस जाके सो जाता हूँ. फिर तीसरी बारी जब मैं उठा, then I was finally back to the real world. Then I fucking woke up my sister for real. Then I went to my parents and I was like कि बहनचोद इस घर में माता है, कुछ भाई priest बुलाओ क्योंकि मेरी तो गांड फट चुकी है. And like my parents still remember this. Like if you guys go ask them, they'll be like, yeah, one night Molly came and he was freaking out and said all of this and said it in the exact same order that I said it in right now. And that's not the only strange thing that's happened to me. This is amongst the strangest, but I've also seen a UFO very, very close. Everybody on the internet is going to think I'm retarded, but there's this friend of mine who I'm not close to anymore or haven't spoken to in ages, and he probably hates me, but if you go to him and talk to him, he's going to tell you the exact same story. Literally in our fucking backyard, we were on the swings. We were like, I think 12. This was pre-drugs, so nobody can say बहनचोद गांजा फूक के इसको दिख रहे हैं ये वो इसकी तो छाती पे भी UFO है ये वो
जादू आ गया तत्व में.
हाँ लिटरली बोरी में भर लिया साले को इसलिए रील बनाता है.
गुड़गांव में जादू.
अबे but basically we saw a fucking UFO up close. Like it was like if I threw a rock, it would hit it. That's how close it was. And I know. And now they have started calling them what UAPs or something, right?
Unidentified objects.
नहीं. चूती वो तो पहले का ही था UFO. Unidentified flying objects तो UFO था. UAP अब कुछ और उसका something the basically
universal epitel law.
These guys have come out. The US government has come out and said that these things exist. UAP, I think. Basically, the US government now has come out and said that UFOs exist. All of these things exist. And they've given it a term, but they haven't really... They've just said that they exist, but they haven't said what... Like, they didn't reveal any information.
No, they started a task force.
They didn't reveal...
Which was the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force.
Yeah, UAPs only, right? So they haven't come out and said what they are. They haven't explained anything, but they've basically admitted the fact that they exist. And they've given them the name UAPs. So I'm telling you, I saw one of those up close in my fucking backyard. And this friend of mine and I both freaked out, ran to our parents. They were all at a get together. सबके सामने उनको बोला बेंचों में UFO दिख गया. सारे अडल्ट दारू पी के कह रहे इनकी तो माँ का चूत क्या कर रहा है तेरा बेटा ये वो 12 साल का UFO दिख गया इसको ये वो और फिर हम सबको बाहर लेके भी आए कि हमें यहाँ दिखा था and everyone was like you guys are retarded and that was the end of it. भाई तो मेरे साथ तो लाइफ में बहुत strange चीजें हुई हैं. That explains why I'm doing one of the strangest things ever, podcasting.
The least strangest thing. Anyways, no, I was gonna tell you guys a couple of stories which I thought were quite fucked up.
Okay.
Which I read online. I'm gonna start with one murder case which you may have heard about.
Okay.
Tell me if you heard about it. That was one second. That was the murder of Elizabeth Short.
Lol, Elizabeth got shot.
No, Short. SHORT.
In the stock market, they shorted Elizabeth.
This was really bad. You've probably heard of the Black Dahlia.
The flower.
The Black Dahlia murder case. That's
Black
what
Dahlia?
This was one of the most
Spider-Man
popular murder cases. Yeah, it was in Spider-Man also.
Spider-Man ने mention था और पता नहीं क्या.
So basically, she used to wear this Black Dahlia necklace.
Dahlia क्या होता है?
फूल होता है यार. Flower.
So Elizabeth.
Wheat.
नहीं.
गेहूं.
Fool.
Farmers protest. Anyway, sorry.
So this was called so basically the place she was murdered was called the Black Dahlia crime scene. So story of Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth Short was a pretty girl. She wanted to be an actress. She was 22
pretty
years
girl.
old. She was quite pretty.
How pretty?
It was 1947.
उसका Instagram नहीं लिंक किया हुआ?
नहीं, 1947.
अगर उस टाइम पे मैं उसको DM करता 175K
वो नहीं
के साथ
करती. She was way beyond your league.
अगर कोई ऐसी लड़की है मजाक कर रहा हूँ मैंने रिलेशनशिप.
So Elizabeth Short got murdered in 1947. Now this is I'm just starting.
Didn't we get freedom then?
Not, but she got murdered in the US.
No, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, we were too occupied with our shit.
Yeah, that's what. That
yeah,
time,
people were even into 10 murders.
That time we didn't care about black or white or anything. It was just pure struggle.
Exactly. तब तो white US वाले भी हमें पता भी नहीं था US क्या है.
हाँ सही.
अच्छा.
So 1947 January 15th.
Wait, was Black Dahlia black or was she?
She was white. She was white.
अरे flower भाई Black Dahlia is.
Black Dahlia is a flower.
Oh, I thought it was like because she was black, it could be Mexican Dahlia or something.
No, it's not a racist murder case.
Oh.
It's just a normal black woman.
Not a black woman.
Not
you
a
mean.
black woman, sorry. Not a black woman, sorry.
So,
sorry.
story
This is
सुनाने वाले
supposed to
की.
be
Yeah, sorry.
a little, you know.
Spooky.
This is not that spooky though. The next one will be spooky.
चल
But
तो
this just started off.
Yeah, let's set the tone.
So, one morning, a woman and her child were taking a walk in the park. And they saw something that looked like a mannequin just dissembled, like the top of a mannequin and the bottom of a mannequin just kept apart from each other.
It's mannequin. Like dismembered.
And then they went close to it and then they realized that it was a girl.
This was Black Dahlia.
And this was Elizabeth Short.
Okay.
She had been split from the middle and tore apart. Like gruesomely, like her body was like 4 meters apart from, like the top was here, the bottom was here. So she had been sliced from the waist, completely drained of blood. She had no blood left in her body at all. She had been split from the bottom to top. All her organs were just laying around and some of them just taken. And the most fucked up part, which I'm also going to show you a picture. I don't know if we should show a picture on the camera because it's a little gruesome picture.
Okay.
But it was the most gruesome part was, which was also, I heard, don't quote me on this, I heard was an inspiration behind the Joker also. She had incarcerations on her face where they had slit her face forcefully as a smile and split her neck from bottom to top. And she looked like...
If there were incarcerations on her face, that could actually be inspiration for the Joker.
That's what I read somewhere online. But this was not the most fucked up part. This is quite interesting. This is what her face looked like.
She would have replied to my DM afterwards. JK. It's all about the pauses. Dude, fuck. आज अकेले नहीं सो सकता.
अभी तो ये so this thing was labeled the glass ghost smile, like her smile. Just looked, people just labeled it. I don't know.
Glass go.
Yeah, glass go.
Okay.
Was this US people are aware.
Where did this happen? In the US?
Yeah, this happened in the US.
Okay.
So the messed up part was, okay, this is the fucked up part. What I found really messed up is, my theory and a lot of people's theories, is they never found the killer.
Okay.
Of course, they never found the killer. But the killer he did a very Jack the Ripper thing where he used to, he wrote 1 or 2 letters to the police.
Yeah.
Where he had newspaper cuttings where he basically told them that I did it. Here's her passport. Here's her driving license. Here's her this. I did this.
Yeah.
And I will come in and I will go to jail if you give me only 10 years.
Okay.
Now the police, dumb enough, told this all to the
newspapers and that they won't.
They publicized everything. Yeah. And now they started getting like hundreds and thousands of tips from everyone, which confused them. And they never got the killer.
So do you think he knew that if he does that, they're going to publicize it?
नहीं उसको लगा था 10 साल का bargain मिलेगा क्या?
नहीं, but
no, I think the killer actually wanted a 10-year bargain.
But ये देखते ही न्यूज़ में किसी और ने कहा मेरे को 20 साल होने वाले 15 के मैं bargain करूँ.
No, but what if he did it because he knew that the police will publicize it and then it's going to eventually, they're going to get a bunch of tips and then he's never going to be caught. What if he did it to play the police?
He didn't know the police would publicize it.
But how do you know? Maybe he did.
It was so back in the day, I don't think he ever thought the police would publicize just know. One girl's murder that much.
वो interaction ले थोड़ी कर रहा था.
अबे but अगर newspaper में इतने brutal murders पहले भी आ रहे होते, like you know, like he knows that he's done something that's big enough to be publicized and clearly he did this to become infamous. So you never know, like maybe he actually was ahead of the police in terms of he was like मैं ये करूँगा और फिर वो confused हो जाएंगे.
But still nobody got to know who did it. So
that's
that's
what I'm saying. So his plan worked.
I don't know. I feel like the person actually wanted to do it, or it was somebody in the force who did it, because that time a lot of police officials in the US were committing a lot of murders.
This brutal.
Not this brutal, but a lot of murders were happening.
Yeah.
But that time US was anyways quite fucked up.
Now it's also quite fucked up.
Yeah. but most of the gruesome murder cases usually happen in the US.
Which is actually strange.
That's quite
No, but the reason that whenever it comes to statistic, like where we're like, oh, most of it happens in the
we
US.
are not always that accurate.
No, it's not. It's not about accuracy. What I feel like is that भाई हमारे देश में इतने सारे लोग हैं कि अगर ऐसे मर्डर्स हो भी रहे तो वो इतने पब्लिसाइज उस टाइम पे देखो लगता है होते थे. लाइक द टाइप ऑफ क्रूअल्टी दैट वाज हैपनिंग इन इंडिया एट दैट टाइम वाज ऑल बीइंग स्वीप्ड अंडर द रग. लाइक यू गेट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. लाइक उस टाइम पे तो भैंचोद ये ऐसे अगर किसी की बॉडी मिलती दे वुड बी लाइक कि हमारे पास तो फ्रीडम ही नहीं है, इस बॉडी का क्या करे.
Right. So the government used to conduct.
Not even the government, but in India, even now, if some fucked up shit is happening, so much of it because of the sheer amount of people in this country would just not come up.
Correct.
Right? Like half, because US में जो भी होता है भैंचोद वहाँ पे उनकी population मादाचोद दिल्ली की जितनी population है उतनी तो मादाचोद आधा है US में. Not literally, but I think Canada is like half of Canada is like Delhi's population or some shit, but it's an absurd number, right? That India has so many people that so much shit is just swept under the rug without anybody ever finding out.
Right. Correct. But there are some murder cases they've made movies also about now. There's so many popular murder cases. I don't remember the movie name, but there was some murder.
Yeah.
There was
obviously वो तो होंगे ही, but
थोड़े
फिर
बहुत
भी.
तो होते ही है. And there are also gruesome murders. There was some murder where this dude was chopped up into like suitcases and thrown. There was
Netflix पे आया था ना, the 11 family members hanging.
Oh, that one was fucking fucked up, dude.
That was messed
fucked
up.
Yeah.
That was actually fucking messed
Bro,
up.
and it turned out to be some.
You were obsessed with it for a while.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
crazy,
I
and it
remember.
turned out to be a fucking like a cultish type of practice.
First episode का तो पूरा बदल जाता है शो है क्या actually.
Dude, that shit was
that shit traumatized me
crazy,
for like 5-6
dude.
days.
That shit was literally like. I didn't want to fucking sleep alone after that shit, bro. That was fucking scary.
ऐसी चीजें दिन में देखनी चाहिए इसलिए.
हाँ मैं दिन में ही देखता हूँ भाई. उसके बाद भी शाम तक डर लग रहा था भूसड़ी के.
ये फट्टू है तो.
हाँ.
तो इसकी माँ का भाई मैं हॉरर मूवीज नहीं देख पाता भाई. जैसे बंदा रिक्रिएशनली पॉपकॉर्न के साथ हॉरर मूवीज देखता है. I can't watch horror movies.
No, but it's to a point you believe that these ghosts and shit actually exist.
Dude, another funny story or not, I was under the impression for 22 years of my life that I was born on Friday the 13th. Then someone told me ki why don't you go back to the year 99 on your calendar and see what day was on Friday the 13th, on the 13th of November 1999. It was a Saturday.
So that was scary to you?
No, turns out I used to think that I have a connection with them.
भाई कहीं पे भी डेट ऑफ बर्थ डालो ये तो पता चल जाता है.
I used to think नहीं साले तू कहीं पे भी तू फेसबुक पे डालता है तो ये लिखा आता है वहाँ पे.
कैलेंडर वो नीचे आया था ना पूरा उसमें दिख
नहीं बट वो मोस्ट ऑफ द प्लेसेस वो पूरा थोड़ी खुलता है साले.
22 साल तक कहीं तूने ऐसा नहीं खोला.
हाँ सोच भाई 22 साल तक मैंने कभी सोचा ही नहीं कि मेरे को लग रहा था मैं फ्राइडे द 13th को ही पैदा हुआ 22 साल तक.
तो अब नंबर 13 तेरे लिए स्पेशल नहीं है.
नंबर 13 तो अभी भी स्पेशल है. मेरी हर जर्सी का नंबर, मोस्ट गाड़ियों का नंबर, हर चीज़, मेरे मेंटल एज, हर चीज़ 13 है. बट क्या बोलते हैं, द पॉइंट इज़ कि फ्राइडे द 13th को नहीं पैदा हुआ था तो मेरे को लगता था कि मेरे साथ मेरा और स्पिरिट्स इन सब का कोई मतलब हम सब का कुछ कनेक्शन है. बट या एनीवे I get very scared by those things is the point.
Horrors, no. No, you believe in ghosts or not?
Oh yeah, so basically eventually I found out that I wasn't born on Friday the 13th, and then
That freaked you out?
That freaked me out because I spent my whole life thinking that I have a connection with the spirits and the whatever.
तो अब नहीं है कनेक्शन.
नहीं अब तो मैं पूरी ज़िंदगी I believe, तो मेरे को लगता है अभी भी है, पर अब मैं communicate करने की कोशिश नहीं करता.
What about you, Keshav? Do you believe that there are ghosts and spirits and stuff like that?
नहीं.
What
Not
do you
at all.
think? There's the only thing there is to this planet is just what is on that you can see.
We haven't discovered the whole planet, but
You don't,
ghost नहीं है. जैसा मूवीज वाला तुम सोच रहे हो वैसा ghost नहीं है.
movies वाला नहीं सोच रहा मैं. I'm thinking like astral bodies, different forms of
No, you
life.
think you said you're scared. Are you scared that there are demons and the actual spirits that will
I feel like there are beings that exist, like we spoke that time with Kamal, that exist in a different plane than us, and some of those beings
They're
are
just
higher beings,
higher
but
beings.
are also evil. They don't necessarily have to be, but I feel like fear plays a big part in how those beings can access you.
Right. I don't.
But I believe that higher beings don't necessarily have to be good.
Okay.
Yeah, they can be bad too.
Fair enough.
And how we perceive bad is, it's not necessary that that's how the higher beings think of it, because they could think of it as a course correction. Maybe because there could be the argument that a higher being is a higher being, so they're morally and ethically and in those senses always correct. That's why they've gone up to be a higher being, and they are course correcting in a way when they fuck shit up, and we think of it as a demon, but they're like course correcting in a way.
No, but then a lot of things play into that. Like, how do you define evil? Like, evil could either be that the person is just all he wants is just, chaos, which
No,
is
but
just
then
related
you're
to
defining evil from a humanistic perspective. You're defining you're defining evil in human terms. This is what we perceive as evil. What I'm trying to say is that for the higher beings, there is no good and bad. There is no evil. There's nothing. They're just functioning and they're doing what is supposed to be done. We put a perception on it.
Yeah, right. But like them hurting or them physically harming us at their show or
We perceive that as evil. But
I don't
maybe that's what is supposed to happen for the world to be functioning the way it's functioning. It's course correction.
I don't buy that. I don't think that if there are higher beings, they would even try to contact us.
No, the point is that the higher beings are controlling us in some way. That's why
but not in the way that people make us believe, or anybody like in the early ages, the churches or like anybody used to make us believe.
No, so that is a whole different argument that we can get into later. But I don't want to open that can of worms just yet. But you can move on to the next story.
Okay. So we did the murder case, but I realized the most horrifying and bone-chilling incident that happened.
Bone chilling. That's how you know he's been reading up on some of these stories.
Intensely.
कोशिश कर रहा है हमारे को.
हर बार YouTube वाले bone chilling
हाँ, bone chilling बोलते हैं.
और इसमें एक है जिसमें bone chilling का experiment भी था.
Bone marrow?
Bone
नहीं,
chilling.
फ्रिज में डाल देते हैं किसी bone.
Bone chilling. What's up, bone? They're all chilling with the bone.
Let's have some chilled bones.
Dude, this bone is so chill. Let's call him to the podcast next time.
क्या फूटता है bone?
इतना relaxed. Snoop के साथ hang out.
We look very calm.
What music do you listen to?
Reggae.
Reggae. Okay. So, who do you think in the history of mankind did the worst experiments on humans?
Mr. Hitler.
Right.
Heil?
Yeah, but maybe there's something after this that might make you change your mind. But
like Hitler का सबसे ज़्यादा documented है.
हाँ,
but I'm sure our other dictators have also.
A lot of countries have done some fucked up.
Yeah. Dude, all countries during the times of war have done fucked up shit because everybody wanted to like do as much harm. It's just that some of them came forward, some of them didn't.
UK did experiments on, this is not in my stories, but I read this there. UK did experiments on their own citizens in their own country. They exposed this gas or this kind of powder from the plane to see what happens to the public.
कोहिनूर वापस करो.
हुआ क्या था पाउडर में?
They had this thing would react with their body and give them some sort of disease, so they wanted to see कि कैसे immunity fight करती है इसको. Okay, so there was this Nazi experiment. So we know that the Nazi had ample supply of experimental lab rats, which were Jews. They're prisoners basically.
Yeah.
Lab rats. They dehumanized everything. मतलब सब भैंचो उनको जो भी करना था उनने उन पे कर लिया. Like anything you can think of.
Keshav, you've read some books on Holocaust survivors, I think. Which ones have you read?
मैं बेसिकली वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 की तो पूरी पढ़ी है. हिटलर की बायोग्राफी मेरे पास, वो जो
हिटलर की क्या था, समथिंग काम, माइन काम्प ही था ना.
हाँ, बट वो ओरिजिनल मैंने नहीं पढ़ी है.
तो तूने क्या उसका
ट्रांसलेशन
हॉलोकॉस्ट सर्वाइवर्स का कुछ फक्ड अप पढ़ा तूने?
I've read one book on Holocaust survivors actually. It's quite sad.
What was that about?
Mine was more about this psychologist or someone who was in the Holocaust, which basically he created this school of thought which was on your surroundings don't depict if you're happy or not. I'm forgetting what the name of the book was, but the gist of it was that this dude realized in the Holocaust that it doesn't matter where you are, happiness doesn't come from outside, it comes from within, and he created this like philosophy / school of thought in which it's supposed to be like a self-help book, but it came from a doctor, psychologist person who was in the Holocaust, and he developed it while he was in concentration camps. But तूने क्या पढ़ा था उसमें? तेरी
एक बुक थी, उसका नाम याद नहीं आ रहा, if I'm saying the name right, ऑशविट्स के बारे, उसके कैंप पे एक बंदे जिसने he survived it and then he wrote a book about what went through there. तो उसको बता देते कि कहते ट्रेन के उसमें डाल के पानी वानी डालते थे, मतलब वाटर कैनन से स्प्रे करते थे. इन जूस में ना कहते they had gold fillings like teeth and they wanted the gold, so
why did Jews have gold fillings?
Iced out.
Is it something religious?
No, they just I don't know why they had it.
Okay.
Did the
take the gold?
do this?
No, Jews
had
Oh, they did. Okay, it's a religious thing.
Like without any anesthesia or anything, just
that was a normal thing only.
Pull out their
back
teeth,
then.
gold teeth.
They never wasted anesthesia on prisoners.
Any anesthesia, just कहते सीधा से बिठा मुंह खोला और निकाल लिया.
That's what I have here also, but it's not just teeth removal. तो basically they were like, they dehumanized everything. उनको बिल्कुल लैब के चूहों की तरह ट्रीट करा था. तो there was this doctor who was in the Nazi, whose name was Joseph Mengele. Joseph Mengele.
Mangle कर दिया उसको.
सबको तो मैंगल कर दिया भाई उसने. He was so fucking bad, he was nicknamed the Angel of Death.
So fucking bad, like god damn, he's so bad. He's such a thick one.
Leather jacket पहन के बाइक पे आता था.
And
he
would push his ass out.
ACDC चलता है पीछे बैकग्राउंड में.
He would push his ass out.
Back to black. Angel of Death था भाई वो सीधे.
He would be so bad. He's badder than Nicki Minaj.
he was so bad कि हिटलर के आर्मी में he was called the
Angel of Death.
That's you have to be bad as hell.
He had this messed up experiment which was basically कि ना उसने बोल दिया सोल्जर्स वगैरह को, जाओ तुम देखो हर जगह और मेरे को सारे के सारे ट्विन्स ढूंढ के ले आओ.
Damn.
ठीक है.
This already is going somewhere.
तो ना सारे सोल्जर्स ले आए 3,000 twins.
What the fuck? So you're telling me 3,000 pairs of twins? So 6,000.
No, I think they're 3,000.
So 1,500.
1,500 twins.
It's an important statistic.
Yeah.
Triplets allowed थे या फिर दो के
No, only twins. Only twins. तो ये twins में out of them only 300 survived. Only 300, 10%.
That's kind of high actually, 10%.
No.
10% survival rate.
After you get to know what was done to them, you would be surprised.
Okay.
एक तो बहुत बकचोदी करी. I don't know why you even need experiments to prove all the shit that he even tried. वो उनको जो करना था उसने कर लिया. Comparatively, what I read, these twins were a little bit treated better than the other people at camp because some of them were, of course, from the same country. But in twins में जो था, जैसे extra जम सिंह, they were treated nice. उनको कभी कभी एक हफ्ते में फुटबॉल खेलने दे दिया था और एक हफ्ते में
कितने बच्चों के साथ? बस वो दो ही खेल रहे थे
आपस में
क्या मजा आएगा भाई उसमें? कैसा फुटबॉल खिला रहे थे भाई? दो लोग फुटबॉल
3,000 लोग कैसे फुट एक बॉल
12 करके टीम बांट दो ना. वहाँ पे
एक साल तक चांस नहीं.
यूरो लीग आज शुरू कर दी थी भाई वहाँ पे. दो लोगों को क्या फुटबॉल खिला रहे?
यूरो लीग चालू हुई.
This was the scheme of the Nazi.
ये एक्सपेरिमेंट था. ट्विंस में बेटर फुटबॉल कौन सा खेलता है? 1-on-1 करा के उनका भिड़ाते रहो.
बायर्न म्यूनिख ड्राफ्ट.
But anyways.
बुंडसलीगा. बुंड मारली लीगा.
तो इन 3,000 में बस 200 बचे. Now when they tested on them, पहले तो they started normal, which was also a little expensive. Was उनने measurements test start करे.
What do you mean by measurements?
They started सारे measurement of each body part and matching it to the other twins' body parts.
Basic shit.
क्योंकि basically these people were what do you call it?
Curious.
No, they believed in
Dude, at the core of the whole experiment there was curiosity
at the end of the day.
Yeah, there was curiosity.
That's not wrong. They believed, the Nazi always believed in body purity.
Yeah, that was their whole fucking idea.
तो ये they were
The
quite
Aryan
mindfuck
race.
कि भैंचोद ये इसकी तरह ये दोनों एक जैसे कैसे दिखते हैं. Like
Straight up,
they were
they couldn't-
fucked up by the whole
Concept
genetic
of-
fact. The
concept of twins.
They were fucked. They were so fucked by it.
Why this guy shouldn't have been the angel of death? He should have been the angel of dumbness. Why?
भाई उसकी गांड फट गई. इसको समझ नहीं आ रहा ये दोनों एक दूसरे ये सब मैच कैसे कर रहे हैं दोनों.
Are you sure this guy was a scientist?
Yeah, he was a scientist. I think he was the chief
तो
scientist.
ट्विंस की जो शक्ल मिल रही है वो देख रहा है इस ट्विन ने ज्यादा खाना खा लिया ज्यादा मोटा कैसे मेजर करके क्या
तो
हो
वो
गया?
उसकी भाई उनकी गांड तो that's what the experiments are. The
इसकी
basically
science
वो
degree-
एक ट्विन पे चीजें ट्राई कर रहे हैं तो दूसरे ट्विन को क्या हो रहा है.
इसकी साइंस
सलमान खान ने मूवी बनाई है इसके
कौन सी?
ऊपर जुड़वा में होता है उसको एक को लगती है दूसरा कुछ करता है ऐसा कुछ होता है.
I think they saw that movie and they were like fuck.
I'm telling you इस बंदे की साइंस डिग्री एमिटी से थी.
भाई
फर्स्ट बैच में था वो.
बंदे को
अब guys, if you're doing science from Amity, if it has science, now it's not bad. First batch में थोड़ा rough था. Now they
fixed it.
Yeah,
जो
now
स्टूडेंट थे वही किताबें लिख रहे थे. वो अपने थीसिस के लिए जर्मनी वापस गया था.
literally. I think his thesis was also quite fucked up. His thesis was like named something like this, like genetic. I don't know. Maybe I'm confusing the scientists. Don't quote me on this. Anyways, so of course for hours and hours and hours they'd measured different body parts of the twins and compare them. कि ये दोनों ये सारे match कर रहे हैं कि नहीं. Now this is where it started. उसके बाद more experiments. One experiment, they transfer blood from one twin to the other twin and see what happens.
And what was the result of
सेम
that?
ब्लड ग्रुप तो होगा शायद.
तू सीधे ब्लड डाल के ऐसे ही ट्रांसफर करने लग गया ट्रांसफ्यूजन.
But transfusion, isn't that literally how transfusion works? You take blood out of one person.
No, without इनके bro twins पे अगर तुम ऐसे ही डाल के तो सीधे ब्लड ट्रांसफर करने
अच्छा दोनों में पाइप लगा दी.
हाँ दोनों में पाइप लगा दी और ट्रांसफर करने
अबे
Oxford.
पर प्रेशर तो सेम है दोनों में, तो बीच में नहीं रुक जाएगा वो.
ऐसे कुछ तो होगा.
हाँ कहाँ जाएगा.
पर बहुत मरे थे twins इसमें basically.
है.
This is not how it's actually done. Transfusion isn't done. कि
हाँ,
मैं-
I know that
Yeah.
कि तूने ब्लड डोनेट जब मैं करने जाता हूँ मेरे साइड में उसको थोड़ी बैठा देते हैं जिसको चाहिए.
सीधे निकाल के ऐसे
हाँ,
डाल.
कह रहे हैं, भैया इसको चाहिए एक बार दे दो इसको.
पावर बैंक की तरह.
इसको 1 लीटर दे दो.
तो ऐसे इतना आसान होता मैं ऐसे काट के देखो ऐसे ही दे
ऐसे
देता
तो नस काट के नस
मेरे
ब्लड
पीले.
डोनेट करवाते हैं. ये इनके को लगता है कि वो ब्लड डोनेशन सेंटर में जाएगा, वहाँ उसको एक चाकू मारेंगे, बोले बाल्टी में ऐसे भर दे और हो गया सीन.
तो ये this was still fine. Then they also, which this case did not make any sense to me why they even tried this. They'd in one twin they'd inject some liquid to make their eye blue. Which
Okay.
basically didn't make their eye blue and blinded them.
Oh shit, sorry.
Blinded them or just gave them like infections and shit.
Yeah.
Which made no sense to me. Like you're not even analyzing the other twin, you're just conducting what you could apply on the normal prisoner also. But उसके बाद ये this is the fucked up one. They basically inject tuberculosis or typhus into one of the twins and then see what happens to the other twin. And if that one twin dies, they'd kill the other twin, open up his body to see what happened to the other twin.
Wow. Okay.
Which was this guy needed to experiment to see this.
Science.
First
ये
of all.
साइंटिस्ट था.
ये scientist था.
Amity का.
I love how he went to someone with the सारे twins ढूंढ के मुझे ये करना है, बोल रहा हाँ that makes like perfect sense कि तेरे को ये करना है इस पे. ये नहीं बोलेगा चूती तो क्या सोच रहे हैं.
अबे उस टाइम पे कोई नहीं बोलता था ये. They thought that Aryan race was pure and they were killing Jews in gas chambers. तेरे को लगता है वो इसको बोल रहे थे. वो तो कह रहे कि कितना पढ़ा लिखा क्यूरियस लड़का है, इसको करने दो एक्सपेरिमेंट. ये सोच रहे थे भाई वो उसके बारे में.
हेल रशिया.
हाँ कि ये तो वो अपना आइंस्टाइन बनेगा. आइंस्टाइन was also Jewish,
मैंने हेल
right?
रशिया कह दिया. fucking Germany था.
Einstein was Jewish too, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Einstein was a Jew.
Oh,
Then
I'm not wrong.
he I think I'm pretty 99% sure Einstein was a Jew and then he converted so that he doesn't have to return to Germany or some shit. Anyway, shout out to Einstein.
So then they'd do that anesthesia shit where they'd open up living bodies. They basically, it's called I forgot what it's called. I wrote it down here. It's called it rhymes with vasectomy. Vivisection. It doesn't rhyme with vasectomy.
Wow, vivisection.
Vivisection is basically performing
Opening up a human body.
autopsy on a living body. Like the person is alive.
That's killing someone.
No, you sew them back up.
Huh?
stitch him back up after you open them up.
Do they survive?
हाँ?
That depends on their
Vivisection
willpower.
अभी भी होते हैं हॉस्पिटल में. तो vivisection होता था और basically but this was without anesthesia and of course the person was just tied to the table while they would open him up. And this was performed to the twins
तो देखते हैं
At the
दूसरा
same time.
at the same time. So this was
Strange.
what the Nazi would do. There was also one experiment where they...
No. Anyway, sorry.
You want to say something?
I was saying that these experiments seem kind of tame. The real cruelty was going on in Japan. I've heard...
That's where I'm going to come to. I'm
okay.
going to come to that. That's
Yeah.
what I have that. But there was one more experiment which was not that fucked up, but which also didn't make sense to me. Is they take prisoners, normal prisoners, and they wanted to test high altitude on them. तो वो उनको प्लेन में बंद कर देते थे और प्लेन ऊपर ले जाते थे जितना ऊपर जा सकते नहीं प्लेन ऊपर जाते थे वो उनको कमरे में बंद कर देते थे वहाँ पर का एयर प्रेशर कम करते रहते थे और देखते थे कब मरता है वो like they tested.
They had the tech to control air pressure in a room
they
and
had
stuff.
they had the rooms for that.
Damn.
High altitude air pressure on them. और ये कमरे वमरे का टेस्ट करते थे. Of course they used to test heat and coldness also like that. कि कितनी ठंड में मरता है कितनी गर्मी में मरता है. They used to burn them, used to cool them. Now this was the
Germans.
This was the Nazi experiments. Now I don't know, a lot of people don't know much about because Japan basically admitted to it late. First they denied
Their war crimes.
This wasn't the war crimes. This was the prisoner. Yeah, the war crimes. This was called Unit 731.
I think there's a book on this, a very detailed book that Jordan Peterson talks about, where he's like, I'm pretty sure. Can you Google that? Can you fact check it for me? Jordan Peterson basically speaks about a book that talks about Japan's cruelty towards their prisoners of war or whatever, and he basically refers this book to people who can't fathom the capabilities of human evil. And wait, I'm gonna actually tell you the name of that book because I wanted to read it. I have it in my book list. It has a very weird, fishy name. Wait, let me tell you. Where are we?
कौन पहले ढूंढेगा?
Oh, it's called Kafka on the Shore.
AMK, you lost.
Abbe, it's a joke, Sale. That's Murakami.
Achha.
Kafka on the Shore, Sale. Oh, I think it's called the AMK. Search this. It's called the Rape of Nanking.
Rape of?
Nanking. Speak into your mic. It's called the Rape of Nanking. Nanking.
Nanking Massacre.
Yeah, is this the Japan thing?
Nanking Massacre. No. This is something different.
This is not the Japan thing.
No.
It's a different massacre.
This was 1937.
Is this not the same?
It was around the same time. Maybe it could be the same thing.
Bro, I'm pretty sure this is the same
could
thing.
be the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Yes,
This is the
because
same
there
thing.
are villagers also in my stories who have been captured.
This is the same thing, right?
Could be, for sure. Not for sure, but like
most
I think
likely,
most likely.
Because Japan is infamous for some absolutely
Fucked up war crime. This was
crimes.
because this was the time Japan was taking over China.
Okay.
Occupying China basically. So this was around 1938. And there was this biological testing lab which was called Unit 731.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind that Japan only admitted to this like 30-40 years after. Like way after that. Because when they were their own country.
Yeah.
Recent though, 1938.
Okay.
This shit. But they were more fucked up.
About
Like,
80
this
years
was
ago.
fucked up. You know what they were called? Like the prisoners and the local villagers that they kept as the fucking lab rats. They were called logs. You know why they were called logs?
They would
'Cause they
burn
were-
them.
They were literally like wooden logs that they
As
discard
good
them.
as good as dead, right?
Yeah, they discard them by burning the bodies. That's how they were. That's why they were called logs. So there was fucked up tests like they would test the frostbite testing where they would freeze limbs of these prisoners.
Yeah.
See when they fall off, or they tie the limbs, cut them off, see what happens. They'd also, which is the most fucked up part, they'd cut these limbs off and attach them to different part of their bodies to see if that limb still moves.
Sew them
Onto different parts of the bodies to see what happens. And this was of course done without anesthesia. This was of course done while they were awake. They were not sedated or anything. Imagine your hand being cut off and they attach it to your ass.
Eh?
That was a very random part to pick.
I bet they tried that.
And then?
Nothing. They'd wait and watch.
What do you mean attached? Fevicol?
No, bro.
No, like sew
them on.
What were they expecting?
That it would move. They expected something to happen. But this was like the.
ये भी उसी बैच का था.
हाँ.
Scientist.
ये बंदा पागल था भाई. पता नहीं क्या क्या कर चुका था भाई. This fucking thing was the most horrifying thing in Japan, because I always thought that Japan was like always this calm manga country with anime and shit.
Manga, isn't that the porn, or is that?
No, manga is anime.
Oh, okay.
Manga was the comics.
Hentai is the porn, sorry.
Manga.
I always thought Japan was like didn't have any dark history.
What the hell? No,
I did not know that Japan had like such a dark
doesn't
history.
Japan have like samurais and shit, bro? वो एक दूसरे के मजे में हाथों हाथ काट रहे थे यार.
तो नहीं, but rich history like
Tokyo Drift.
विंड डीजल जहाँ जाता है वहाँ कुछ ना कुछ करके आ जाता है भाई.
Family.
पर विंड डीजल
भाई आगे तो बता फिर हुआ क्या इसमें.
हाँ तो बहुत चीज हुई भाई फिर.
परविन डीजल.
तो
Parvin Diesel.
they also of course do this. They lock prisoners in rooms and of course not give them any food or drink and see how long they survive. Of course all of them died. All of these prisoners died. Of course, everybody died at the end of this experiment.
Yeah.
All the prisoners they had, and they had thousands of prisoners.
Yeah.
More than that, I think I read more than 200,000 people died in the series of these experiments. They had also forced them to drink seawater and see how long they survive.
What was the outcome of this? I'm actually inquisitive.
They died.
No,
Instantly.
but how long did they survive? Like, how can
They didn't post any of these findings.
What the hell? The experiment क्या
Dude,
था ये?
all of these experiments, none of the findings have been there because all of them died. So no one fucking.
But they didn't even write basic data as how long could they live.
No,
Did
because
they
they
really
denied it
process?
for so long. They burned all the data. By the end,
Oh,
when they were accused of conducting such experiments, they shot everyone. They shot all the prisoners to basically not.
Yeah.
So they couldn't be accused of this bullshit.
Typical.
They'd also inject animal blood in the prisoners to see how long they survive. It was basically, they knew they were gonna die. End of it was how long will they survive? They wanted to study
This
clotting
was just
and
like an evil
transfusion.
Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah, they just wanted to do it.
रोज
They
सुबह उठ के कुछ नया करना है.
study clotting and I don't even know, like,
I don't think there was actually, the purpose was to actually find any findings. When you're just surrounded by fucking death and chaos, you just want to cause some more of it, and you can disguise it under the veil of science and then just get away with a lot of bullshit.
no, but there were just scientists doing this regardless, right?
वही तो बोल रहा है कि they were just pretending to be scientists.
Yeah, they were just disguising.
Pretending to
They were just disguising their evil with a veil of science. But this just seems like, what the fuck? इसमें बेंच साइंस क्या सालों ने राइटिंग वाइटिंग की, ये भी नहीं पता कि कितना टाइम सर्वाइव किया सी वाटर में.
But yeah, exactly, it would make no sense. Not any sense. Like
Yeah,
minuscule
like, if they actually
0.1%.
got some findings or some conclusion they reached from conducting the experiment.
Right, like 0.00001% made sense if they actually posted the findings and it helped someone, but nothing came out
Yeah.
ever. And of course, they put humans into centrifuges. Centrifuge, you know what a centrifuge is?
Yeah.
So, Keshav, so centrifuges, when you put like a what do you call it? The टेस्ट ट्यूब्स जो होता है मिक्स करने के लिए दे पुट देम इन दैट थिंग और वो ऐसे मेरी गो राउंड जैसे घूमता है उनको मिक्स करने के लिए ठीक से. दैट्स अ सेंट्रीफ्यूज. तो दे मेड अ ह्यूज सेंट्रीफ्यूज, दे पुट ह्यूमंस इन इट एंड स्पन इट इन एन अल्ट्रा स्पीड टू सी हाउ लॉन्ग द ह्यूमन वुड
Adventure Island.
but into X till you die and puke and die. Yeah,
Oh.
die and puke or go
So
unconscious.
what was the cause of death? I'm actually inquisitive. What is the cause of death in a situation like that?
You'd go unconscious anyways. Your brain, the blood would rush to the top of your head.
Isn't that something like what happens when there's a lot of G-force on your body?
Yeah. Your gravity rushes to your.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's the thing. Like
Eventually the G-force knocks you out, right? Top Gun अभी देख के आए थे उसमें यही तो होता है G-force.
Bro, मर जाएंगे उससे क्या?
हाँ यार, अगर G forces infinite, अगर G forces एक level के बाद बढ़ते हैं, then I think you just die. We'll have to Google what the cause of the death, what the cause of death.
centrifuge का.
is during
ultra
that time.
spinning. But there are a lot of causes of death though. Like anything could go wrong. Your head, you going that fast, your brain could spin like really fast. Sara blood would rush over there.
अभी तक
brain would
बेसिक
stop
एक्सपेरिमेंट
working.
हो रहे थे कि सी वाटर पिला दिया, अब पूरे मतलब बजट मिल गया इनको कि
भाई
centrifuge-
घुमा रहे इतना बड़ा
Yeah.
सेंट्रीफ्यूज लाया
Imagine
कौन?
how expensive it must have been to fucking
At that
make,
time, at that
and
time.
that too, like what would be the fucking, उसका और कोई यूज भी नहीं है भाई, इतने बड़े सेंट्रीफ्यूज का क्या करोगे, उसमें दाल बनाओगे बेंचोद.
उसके बाद
अब
क्या
किसी
होगा?
अम्यूजमेंट पार्क में लगा हुआ है.
Imagine.
What the fuck? So back then, syphilis was fucking common. Syphilis was fucking common. So they, of course, used the prisoners to study syphilis, but to a mind fucking extent. Of course, they'd affect the people with syphilis, open them without anesthesia, see what happens. But they would also force the male prisoners with syphilis to have sex with the female prisoners to give them syphilis and then open up the female prisoners to see what happened with them. They'd also, which was quite not sensible and fucked up, was they made the guards forcefully, not the guards forcefully, the guards forcefully impregnated the female prisoners and then did weapon testing on them to see how they die differently.
How pregnant women die differently. Japan.
Effects of weapons on pregnant women.
Just basic guns and shit.
Right.
So this is, what is the science in this?
Just
This is practice, just shooting practice.
shooting practice at the end of the day, which is fucked up. Like half of these, 100% of the experiments didn't make sense. They didn't figure out anything. So, of course, these experiments made zero sense. They had no outcome after these experiments. And the most fucked up part was these experiments was conducted by their own government, and some of the prisoners would have been their own citizens and their own civilians.
But yeah, I think in those books also that I was referring to, a lot of, like, it's spoken about how wo khud ke, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think they spoke about how they were doing all of this stuff on their own people only.
Yeah, that's the fucked up part. I get, okay, fine, I don't get it, but you had prisoners, right? And these people are abiding by you, believing in you, and you're using those people also on experiments. Of course, you shouldn't use anybody on experiments.
But the thing is that, so basically Jordan Peterson speaks about how when someone goes like, oh look, there's this Nazis, people did evil, did this, did that, this is terrible, this is horrible. But he's like, to dumb it down to the max, is he's like, people don't actually realize what the peer pressure in a situation like that is.
What do you mean?
When you're
in the scientist community.
No, when you're surrounded by evil on to that level, it's very hard. Like he's basically saying कि तुम अभी बैठ के कह सकते हो कि मैं अगर उस सिचुएशन में होता तो मैं उस जूइश लड़की को या उस जूइश बंदे को हेल्प करता. But he says that there's a very high probability that you would also be on the Nazi side, because the sort of pressure, psychological pressure in a situation like that cannot be judged from outside. It's very easy to be like,
it's peer pressure.
It is. It's like peer pressure on a very, very, very large scale.
Yeah,
when a whole country is doing something to a certain group of people, अब हम बोलते हैं कि अगर मैं उस पोजीशन में होता मैं ये करता मैं वो करता, but he's like, when you're actually there, it's a completely,
you take things differently, because you would be outcasted if you do it differently.
It's not about the outcasting, it's about how you would be perceiving the things differently. Maybe you like, it's just all, like, I'm not out here defending anything, but Jordan Peterson introduced this idea that it's very weird, like being in that sort of an environment fucks you up. Like, it's very hard for you to psychologically be right in the mind and just make right decisions
when you're raised that way.
Not even raised that way, but when that sort of an environment arises and you become a product of it by being in it for an extended amount of time, then the sort of situations and psychological situations that arise in your head are like fucked.
Correct.
So it's like, yeah, it's basically, he was saying it's all just very, very strange. No easy scientific explanation.
On that note, we all got a little bit depressed today.
Yeah.
Listening to dark stories.
Today was a very different episode. Guys, comment down below if you actually enjoyed this format where we had some predetermined stories to talk about. Like, we always have predetermined stories, but usually the predetermined stories are our own stories. they're not like they're not other people's stories. But comment down below if you guys liked it, if you guys made it to the end. We all love you. And comment down below if you want me to tell you guys more about the outer body experience and the UFO experience. I think we could potentially make episodes dedicated to those topics. Anyway, guys,
we do funny stuff anyways. Maybe once in a while we can just do
some
talking about mind fucking shit.
Yeah, mind fucking shit and just some spooky stuff here and there. Anyway, guys, that has been episode 6 of the Podstarz, where we have the biggest headphones, we have the biggest microphones, but we have the smallest penises. Peace.
Bye.